Okay, today we're in Wargrave. That's near Reading in Berkshire. It's the little village I grew up in, and I thought I'd take a little tour around. And at the moment we're in Station Road, and we're just going to head off down towards the station. Uh, this used to be a lovely station back in the day. It was a two-line one. It had a bridge that went over, had two platforms, one each side, and the building. Well, to those of you who remember the old village stations, they were well kept with loads of flowers and everything like that, and always had a station master and a porter on hand. And I'm afraid now it resembles a bus stop, which is a bit disappointing, really. But that's progress, I suppose. But yeah, as you can see, there used to be camping coaches just forward down through those gates there, and lovely old station buildings here. And on the other side, there was a bridge that went over, and now there's just one little two compartment train that comes by. It's a bit like a bus, and stops there, and that's about it, really. It's a terrible sign of the times, but it's something we've all got used to. At Henley, it used to be the same. I had a lovely building at Henley, really magnificent. Now it's shot away. Yeah, all this was all just open land. There was nothing on the left there at all. Now they're all developed. Bushnells was down the bottom, which is the boat people. They were well, they're still a big name in the village now, really. Have been for years, and. Yeah, my old dad used to do the gardening up here. This last house on the right before the Roman walk. We're just going to turn left into Millie Green, and it's the house with all the trees lined up here. That one just there, and yeah, he planted it all out when it was just a field. They built a house there, and he did all the gardening. This is Millie Green, and I mean, look at the state of that conker tree there. It was diseased, and they've just left it there, and why I don't know, because it will just ruin all the other trees. And there's St Mary's Church. I was in the choir there, and I was a bell ringer there, and yeah, good days, really. But it used to be a lovely old church with a good old vicar, but they then got a dodgy one in. I won't mention his name now, but yeah, but that one there looks a bit diseased as well, doesn't it? Such a shame. They were lovely conker trees down here, and that one in particular was such a majestic tree, and now, well, doesn't bear thinking about, does it, really? But yeah, the Roman walk, that's the vicar's house, you can just see there, and the Roman walk is just to the right hand side of it, and then to the right of there was where my old dad did all the landscaping and that. But this house up here on the corner, on the right hand side there, that used to be the vicarage. When I was a lad, that was the vicarage, and then they built the new house down on the bottom there. Mary Hopkins, the singer, lived there for quite a few years when it became a private dwelling. And yeah, this is the high street we're just going into, and still very much the same as it was, really. There's not a lot of difference. There's a big old mansion to the right there that we've just gone past, where I used to go and get the coal for the old lady that lived there. She had a couple of servants, but they were too scared to go down into the coal cellar because they thought it was haunted. I must admit, it used to frighten me a bit. I was about 12 at the time. And but I used to get 1 and 6pence in old money every time I filled up the coal scuttles for them. I used to go down there about every other day to do that for them. And yeah, quite interesting, if a bit scary. But yeah, the village itself, in the high street, it's not changed too much, except for the shops have all got, well, they're not shops anymore, are they? They're just display cabinets, really, a lot of the time. The pubs are still active and, you know, going like a good one, which is amazing, really, because a lot of village pubs have shut down. And where that chap's working there used to be an old lady lived in there called Dolly Kane, and she was a well-known celebrity type in the village, I suppose, but really good at paying for Bob a Job, Guy Fawkes, Christmas carols, all that sort of thing. But she lived there mostly on her own a lot of the time, And the bull there, where my mum used to work all the time, and the greyhound, always good for a good crack in there. And the old phone box still there. But all this over on the right hand side here, that was a big ornamental garden, and it was lovely in there. But it's all been built on now, as most of the stuff has. All this housing up here on the left, there was nothing there before. And and these little houses up here, tiny little terraced houses they are, absolutely fetching a fortune now. But when you think of the families that used to live in them, couldn't rub two pennies together, a lot of them. It's amazing, isn't it? But this is School Lane, and Lakes Lane there. And we're just going to go up on the way up towards the school, the village junior school, just up here on the right hand side. And but we're not going to go quite up there. We're going to go up Silverdale Road here, which ran down from where I used to live. And this hasn't changed a great deal, but they've bunged in houses here, there and everywhere, as usual. But where we're just going to turn into, Beverly Gardens, they were building that. Well, they started to build it probably a year before I left, and we used to come up here and jump all over the building site, all over the scaffolding, and snaffle what we could to make stuff at home, battens, wire, all that sort of stuff. But it was a proper adventure playground to us, and these were the first ones the bungalows ever decided to be built, and then gradually built its way around. Now there's the infant school is just back there on the right hand side, and this was the first time I've been here in this estate since it's been built. As I say, when I moved out of the village I was 13 at the time, 13 years old, and none of this lot had been built, only those first half a dozen as you come in on the right hand side, and a few on the left had been built, a few of the private houses, but this bottom end hadn't, and I haven't made the effort to come up here a bit since then. And but it looks all right, I suppose. A little bit cumbersome, but I think the infant school is just somewhere near this van here, and not too crowded. I was expecting it to be quite jammed up with cars and that up round there, but it's not too bad at all. These roads back in the day, they were all just flint roads. They weren't tarmacked at all. These like Silverdale Road and Hamilton Road that we're just going to go down. And up in front of us now, if you went up through those bushes there, that used to be the old laundry, and we used to have to put the ashes out in the winter for him to be able to get up the hill here in his old van. But we live just near where this telegraph pole is. We're just going past now on the left hand side, where the opening is there to that little cul-de-sac. Our house used to be about there, and it was a lot different to this back in the day. And we're now coming down. All this was really big, heavy flints all the way down here until you got to Victoria Road, which is what we're just going to get into. Across the road there was just 6 council houses over there. And to the left, Perford Drive, that was just a chicken farm. And now it's just a big mass of housing. And but Victoria Road, this road, it used to be a lovely little village, but they have crammed houses in every available little space you could think of, and it's a nightmare. I mean, back in the day, cars weren't all that popular really, and if you saw one every quarter of an hour coming up the road, you were lucky. And obviously the favourite place in the village was always the Rec, which we're just going up to now, Recreation Road. And this was a quiet little road with just a few council houses at the top here, both sides, but it's all been redeveloped now, and made it a bit of a chicane to get into the park, as you can see. But the park itself isn't too different. Obviously the kids' play area has been upgraded, but the cricket pitch and pavilion, all that. Well, the pavilion's had an extension on it, a new extension, but it all looks very similar. But over here to the left, it was all a copse. There wasn't this big old car park back then. And in front of you there are all the allotments for the villagers, which used to be a good source of vegetables for the rest of us. But over there, the kids' park, the scout hut and that over there, and it was an old wooden hut when we were kids. But generally speaking, the park's still very similar, except they don't have as many adventure woods and shrubs and copses and that you used to have. It's all been cleared away now, so it's all just virtually grass everywhere over there. But when we were cubs, we used to go out at night in the winter and play hide and seek in the long grass. No torches. Yeah, it was quite an experiment. But yeah, these obviously original houses that were there, and kept very nice as well by the look of it, which is good. But yeah, it's quite a quiet day up here today. Normally when you come up here, you've got a job to get up here because there are so many cars parked both sides of the road and people trying to get down in between, and the people in the 4x4s not wanting to give way to anybody. It's a bit of a game, but there you go. But we're just going up to Highfield Park here, where a lot of the lads used to live. And my sister still lives up here, I believe. I haven't seen her for quite a few years. But not that we fell out or anything like that. We just don't communicate, I suppose, unless it's a special event in the family and we might meet up, you know. But yeah, my brother used to live just round here in one of the houses here, just where that big old motorhome's parked there. And yeah, my sister lives just over on the right here, but we shan't be calling in. But I thought I'd just drive around just to see that it hasn't changed a great deal. Obviously those trees were not on the green back in the day. But you can tell that most of the council houses have actually been bought up and made private now, so it's not really a council estate, it's more of a private estate. And yeah, the Darbys used to live there, and the Kirbys used to live there. And the Edneys, which my sister on the other side of the estate lives, her husband used to live just on the right side of the estate, yeah. I mean, it's nice to drive around the old village and remember it as it was, but this is the only bit really that still looks more or less the same. Most of it has changed so dramatically. And but when you look online, there's not really a lot that shows the journey through Wargrave, if you know what I mean, the way it's been developed and all this, that and the other. Which is a bit of a shame, really. I think there's quite a lot going on now as far as pictures go in Google and things like that, but not videos. And so I thought I'd make this little video just to put on YouTube, so that perhaps in a few years' time, people that have lived in Wargrave or had dealings with the Wargrave community can sort of look back. They might live in other parts of the country and be able to just pop back and have a mooch around and see how it's changed. This hasn't changed at all round here. This is all almost exactly as it was. A friend of mine, Mad Dave, used to live in that house just there, and he was mad. I won't go into details about how mad he was. But if you ever come across my blog, you might read about him on there. Yeah, but yeah, back there, nothing around that area has changed. But I think they've bunged one bungalow in or something. But here is the back entrance to Purfield Drive, which obviously wasn't there. It was just the chicken farm before. And but this bit here, it's still very much, it would look the same now as it did, say, 50, 60 years ago, which is quite good. The old Sultan of Oman bought Wargrave Manor, which is behind all those bushes there. And there used to be a pillbox, the old army, or not army, the old World War pillbox thing. Used to be in that field there. And Mad Dave blocked me in there one day, pitch black, sat on the lid so I couldn't get out. Yeah. Yeah, up here is used to be a big hotel. My mum used to work there called Hilllands, and then they pulled it down. Must have been perhaps 1960, something like that. Built all these houses on the right here, and then a while later they built all those lovely big houses on the left. But it was good fun while the building was going on, because as I say, we could use it as an adventure playground. And this has changed quite a bit down here. They've got a few little developments gone on, like up there, and but it's still very similar. It's not too bad. Can't complain about houses going in when they're done tastefully. But up Victoria Road, it's been done with such no taste at all that it's absolutely spoilt the village. And it's took away any charm, and it's made it so busy that you can hardly get up and down it. And I don't know if you've noticed, but on this trip through Wargrave, we've hardly seen anybody walking about. Now, this used to be such a busy, you would always meet people walking up and down the road who you knew and all that, you know. But now it's as if nobody goes anywhere unless they get in their car. And it's always like that. Every time I come through the village, which I do perhaps once a month, something like that, because I've still got friends that live here, you know, so I'll pop over. But there's never people walking about. It's really weird. As I say, you get the odd one or two, but that's it. Yeah, the shop on the corner there used to be a big old sign there. It used to be a budding shop, and all of the village lads, we all scratched our names into the sign so that we could be remembered forever. But then, of course, they took the sign down a couple of years later and did away with it. Never mind. But the ground over there, I mean, I've not been in there for years now, but according to people that still live in the village, they reckon it's not really changed a great deal, which is good, because it was always a good old pub. Same as the Bull was always a good pub, but that's more of an eatery now than a pub, which they're all doing, aren't they? We're now turning right as if we're going towards Henley. And yeah, we used to have our own international stores, Lloyd's Bank, W.H. Smith's, all those sort of shops used to be in the village here. There used to be the post office there, and that was the White Hart. Don't know what it is now, I'm sure. But that used to be quite an alright pub. And then we had Jilks's Garage up on the right here, but that's now no more. That's been done away with. And yeah, we've still got, that's a nice old house, but they pull down the other ones here to put up those catastrophic monsters. I don't know, but the George and Dragon's been messed up. That used to be a really good place for all of us kids to go down, go fishing and go on boats and all that sort of thing. Camp's Pool is still very similar, although they've straightened the edges up so that it's nice and clean. Whereas it used to be a bit Banksy before. And but it's still a really nice place to sit and just listen to the birds making a good old racket. And yeah, we're now going to go down Willow Lane. And I used to work down the bottom of Willow Lane at the pig farm down there, because when I went to school at the secondary school, I didn't really like it all that much. So I planned my days so that I didn't go to school, and I had several jobs. I had one at the chicken farm down Loddon Drive, which was to get £5 an hour for working down there. And I had another job up here, right at the end. There used to be a pig farm, and well, you'll see where it was. I don't think you can see the buildings through the hedges. But yeah, the old pig farm down here. I used to work down there a couple of days a week as well. And I didn't get £5 an hour, but we did get quite good money. And but in those days, they didn't worry whether you were supposed to be at school or not. As long as you could do the work, they would pay you. And so I used to occasionally go to school just to sort of keep my hand in, you know what I mean? but not very often. I remember I was off for about 6 months once, and then I got collared and told I had to go back to school. But it was fun while it lasted, to say the least. And then we had loads of other jobs as well, sort of gardening and repairing bikes and all sorts of stuff, running errands for people. They give you a tanner, not a tenner, a tanner, which was 2.5p in new money, to run an errand or something. But yeah, just any old jobs. People used to collar me because they knew I wasn't at school. They say, "Oh, Peter, come and do this, come and do that." And yeah, I used to make more money a week than my dad, which I'm not really that proud of as such, but because the poor old bugger used to, that was it, over on the right hand side there, it used to be an old pig farm. And yeah, he used to work hard, he used to work really hard, long days, but I think he used to get £2 a day back then. No, he was a gardener. He was a good gardener. And everybody praised him up and said how good he was and all that, but they weren't really keen on paying a good wage, whereas nowadays gardeners get really good money, and it's a good living to be a gardener now. But back then it wasn't. I think because everybody could do gardening after the war. It was sort of a skill that everybody picked up during the war. And so afterwards gardeners could be got to a penny, and so didn't command a very good wage. Whereas now there are a lot of very rich gardeners about, because especially in areas like the south of England where I live, the Thames Valley area, I mean, there is so much money kicking about, and the houses are owned by people that have got more money than sense, or more money than they know what to do with. So rather than do the gardening themselves, they employ professional gardeners who charge an absolute fortune for it. Not that I could turn my hand to gardening, I ain't got the back for it, but there you go. Yeah, but down here, this used to be a really lovely drive down here. I don't mean drive as in car, but I mean a drive, as in Willow Lane is a drive, really. And but now a lot of the houses, they just look unkempt and shabby, which it shouldn't do, because there are a lot of people with an awful lot of money that live down here, but it's like they can't be bothered to look after their properties. Either that, or there is a few people that own the properties in between that can't be bothered, so it makes the rest look bad, I suppose. Now, I know these people that live down here, if they happen to see this video, they're not going to be very happy with me about that, but I'm afraid it's a fact. It was a lovely road down here, it was so well presented, and that's it. End of it now. Yeah, my battery ran out there, so I've had to end the video. I was going to tag another one on the end of it, but I've decided not to. So anyway, it's not a very good video, not a very good chat over, but I thought I'd bung it on anyway because I'd recorded it. And so check out the other ones, they're just as bad. But just for a laugh, if you'd like to like it and share it and maybe subscribe, you never know, they might get even better later. Okay, thank you. Ta-da.